Welcome to Calcast, your Create International podcast. God Network News, where we give you a new perspective
on events happening in our world today.
This is GNN.
This is God Network News, episode 224. Welcome, GNN fans, to another episode of God Network News, the podcast that tells you what God's doing around the world. Not what CNN tells you, but what GNN tells you is going on in the world. If you're tired of listening to all of that crisis network news and you want to hear what God's doing, well, give us a listen. Greetings, God Network News fans. My wife and I just returned from the Middle East and Africa. We were in Kenya, in Nairobi, and also in Uganda. And we were able to meet with some incredible people that are seeing huge movements to Christ amongst the unreached peoples in Africa. We will be bringing you a whole series of these testimonies to God Network News in these next few episodes. So please stay tuned. You won't want to miss this.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Christian Benchete from Malawi. I heard about DMM in 2017, and 2018 I attended Catalyst Camp, where I learned about obedience and immediate obedience. So when I went back to Malawi, I prayed, and where I started was at my working place, the community which is very close to where I was working. And we had a group of chiefs that were coming to a DBS that I established after the senior chief asked for prayers. So in this DBS, there was one of the chiefs who was also a guard at a Hindu business person in Lilongwe from India. So this guard got the message, and he started to read the Bible on his own. And because of his nature of work, he was not chatting with his bosses. He was not sometimes they could not even greet him. But the bosses wondered how he became so excited, and sometimes he was smiling on his own, and he was holding something that they call it a small book. This guy just bought a small New Testament Bible. He was a Muslim, and he was working for the Hindus. So the Hindus were so amazed with the way how the guy changed. Every time he was opening the gate, smiling, the environment was looking nice. And one day they asked him why he has changed. And then he told them, I'm reading this book, and we are doing some discussions with our team in our village. And it is really helping me to discover how I can please God. So the bosses knew that he was a Muslim, and they asked, is this Allah that you're talking about? He said, no, I'm learning about Jesus. So they were so captured that a Muslim is talking about Jesus, and they were Hindus. So this sparked, I think, anticipation from the bosses, and they asked him, what are you reading then? That day he was asked, he was reading about the resurrection of Lazarus. And then I just ended that I read the story that this man went to the graveyard, and then he stood by the graveyard and called out, and I haven't finished, I don't know what happened. So the bosses said, read more, let me know how the story ended. And when they came back the following day, he finished the story, and it continued. He was reading and narrating the story to the bosses. to the point that they said, we want to know who is this person who is teaching you. So that's when I was brought into the picture of the Hindus. I started discussing with them, and to the point that the father believed, the wife believed, and the whole family believed. And one day they were doing their Bible study at their home. They came across the story of Cornelius, and they realized that Cornelius was baptized right away when he believed. And when I visited them, I was shocked for them to ask me that Cornelius was baptized by Peter the moment they believed. Why are we not baptized? Now, my background, I was just a school principal. I have never baptized a person before. And that was a shock for me because I never expected somebody to ask me to baptize. And so far, these are the Hindus. I know I've established a relationship with them. We chat, we call each other. But now to reach a point of being baptized, I had some fears. And the fears took me to ask some pastors to come and baptize them. But these guys said no. According to what we have read in the Bible, it was Peter who baptized them. And they insisted. And God just gave me some courage. One day, all 13 members in this family got baptized. And that was a breakthrough. My fear was done that day. And they also grow up. And the question was, now that we've been baptized, what next? So this is the time we established the church in the house of the Hindus.
You're listening to God Network News Podcast with your host, Cal Curtis. Look up our website at godnetworknews.com.
And the story goes on with the God because he was a Muslim witnessing to the Hindus. And when he heard of what the bosses have done, he went back home and started sharing the same news to his friends. Until one day I was also called by one of the big Islamic leaders in our country, because one of the ladies who was going to a Bible study where this God was also going testified of Jesus in a mosque when he was asked, how can we help each other? And this lady, without knowing what she was talking, and she applied what she learned from the Discovery Bible study in Islamic discussions. She said, no, we need to extend grace to each other. And then the sheikh, the imam, was so amazed because he said, there is no teaching like a grace that we teach in a mosque. Where did you get this? And he was very furious. They wanted to throw her away until they discussed that let us just take her aside and hear where is she learning all these things. And this lady innocently just mentioned the names. Now I'm hearing this from the principal of this school, Christian, and he has been telling us so many things, and I believe that it's true. So this imam was so amazed to see this illiterate woman who has never been to school, who doesn't know how to read or write, has been captured by the teaching of the Bible. So that's how he reached out to me. The first day it was like, you can't make me a Christian, but I want to know what you have done to this lady for her to believe the way she has done. So from that, God also opened the door, and we started talking. And this is the entry point that I see that we entered into Yao community, because this man believed, and he got baptized, and he took me to his home village, which the whole village, they were all Muslims. They were all Yao tribe and all Muslims. There was not even a person who had been to a Christian faith. So when we went there, he introduced me as a friend, and he told his people that this friend of mine has helped me to change heart. But the story is too long. For now, just to know that I have changed the heart. And I would love you to listen to his story because it can also help you to find the truth. So I was taken into a Yao community by an imam who was well respected. He was well known in Malawi, that he had a very big project that they were doing. They also had a movement, Islamic movement, and he was heading that. So when he introduced me to his community, people wanted to know what it is. Unfortunately, we had no time to do so. As I was leaving, some people shared their contacts with me. We started talking. So this is how we started talking about how God can change our lives. That is the entry point. So I shared my story that I'm coming from Christian background, but Christianity didn't help me as we know it. And I have done so many things, but all these things failed until one day I discovered the truth about God. So I shared it from that angle. And they said, how can we know about this? So it all opened the discussions that led to them wanting to hear more. And they could call time to time, and a number of them started to believe, but they were afraid now of what could happen. And God changed this man, the imam, to the point that he went back to his village and started teaching his own people that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. So from this community, we started to see people believing and started reaching to others. As a matter of obedience in the Discovery Bible study, we always ask a question, whom are you going to share with? And the Yawas are very good at sharing their stories. So they could go to the nearby communities and share. Within 2 years, it was flourishing until when some of these believers got baptized and then broke persecution. It was terrifying because I have been hearing about persecution in other countries, in the Middle East, in Nigeria, in East Africa, but I didn't believe that these things could happen in our own country, among our own people. Because when these people got baptized, they were chased out of their communities by other people who didn't like the idea of them being believers. And of course, a number of them were killed in the process, and some ran away. So it was like a no-going zone for us. It was like the door has been closed. But we didn't know that God was working underground, because when people were running away, wherever they went, in the communities they ran to, they seek refuge. They started something there. And then the kingdom was taken from this community to other places. So this is how we engaged the Yao people, and the movement is growing from there.
If you enjoyed this episode, please consider donating to help us continue to bring exciting stories fresh from the field. Visit our website at godnetworknews.com and select the PayPal link on the right side of the page, or consider becoming a Patreon partner to receive access to more valuable materials exclusive to our members.